got some turbulence up ahead. Reach out to the pilot's planner. Happy Halloween from us here on the Wealthy Pilots podcast with Scott Osborn. It's certainly a spooky time of the year because we're right around the corner from, I don't know, maybe the craziest election of all time. We'll see how it goes. And that's going to infiltrate and infect, I suppose, Scott, our conversation today. Politics and investing, since we're, like 4 days away from going and voting, or 5 days away, whatever it is. So welcome in, my friend. How are you?
Yeah, doing great. Yeah. Great introduction. Definitely a spooky time in our political journey as a country here. And, it candidly seems like we have two candidates that are both dressed up,
It's something.
Both in costume.
It's something. It's something. Yep. It's a kooky world that we're in. But nonetheless, there's statistics and stuff out there, Scott, that show that, elections don't really change a lot with the stock market. The outcomes doesn't seem to change a whole lot. This one, who knows, right? I bet we say that about everyone, and yet the data comes back later on and says, it didn't really move the needle all that much one way or the other. But it still makes people nervous, right? So they still wonder, do I change things up depending on what may or may not happen? So let's talk a little bit about it this week. So what you got?
Yeah, I think if you look back historically, there's kind of two things at play here. One is people's sentiment around this, their emotional disposition around the election and its implications. And the other is, what does the data tell us historically? And so what we know is that if you could pick the best performing time to invest, we know it would be with a Democrat president and a split Congress. Now, we don't know necessarily why. There could have been significantly greater geopolitical, economic things going on that give it that amount of tailwind. But if you look back, and we got a graphic that, maybe we can have the team pop up here, and it kind of shows, hey, here's how it looks with a Republican president and a split Congress, a Republican all red, all blue. And so we'll pop that graphic up here, but it's really interesting to see, most people feel like, if I talk to them, hey, the stock market, the Republicans do better with the stock market and the economy grows more under them, and et cetera, et cetera. The data doesn't necessarily say that, regardless of how you vote or your political convictions. I like to vote a certain way based off of the different laws and values and taxes that I think one party has over the other. But at the end of it,
I agree with you. Yeah, I don't think it should just be the stock market in general. There should be a lot of other pieces. But maybe because of that point you just made is the fact that because nothing gets done. So like when they're gridlocked, which is kind of what you're talking about by being split or not having too much power in any one legislative branch, if I can talk, they don't do anything, right? And then the stock market likes it when they don't do a whole lot of regulatory change because then it can do its thing. So maybe that's part of it.
Yeah, generally speaking, the less active the government can be, the more active small, medium, and large businesses are
private sector,
returning value to the shareholder and growing their businesses. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely agree with you there. And so it makes for an interesting conversation piece, especially when we've changed the world now, too, and people start thinking about morality-based investing or ethical-based investing, right? So I want to be involved with companies that align with me morally or spiritually. Yep. That's become a big thing, too, and maybe politically. Now, maybe that's a new wrinkle because we are so polarized now. Maybe you're saying, hey, I don't want to invest in X company because it really heavily supports X candidate, and I am not down with that.
I saw some Facebook ads, and they were targeting. The company was basically saying, hey, the two different companies. One was saying this is investing and wealth management by conservatives for conservatives, and then this one was investing in wealth management by liberals for liberals. And I don't know. I think that's very interesting to be trying to just, like you said, I think that's trying to latch on more to the polarizing fact of, hey, I'm like you, versus just saying like, hey, regardless of what's going on politically, all the data in the world would tell you it's a bad idea to let your politics influence your investing and wealth management decisions.
But we're in such a weird world that, and let's be fair. There's a real good chance that same company, and I don't know who it is marketing to both sides. It's like the person that makes the I hate Trump shirt and the person that makes the I hate Harris shirt is being made by the same people.
Right.
They're actually making plenty of money because they getting you no matter what side you're on. And so if you're letting that factor into your own personal thought process about how you invest, you could be shooting yourself in the foot. Now, pull the politics out for a second and just go with the ethical or the moral. That's a different conversation, right? Some people are like, hey, I don't want to invest in this company because I'm against alcohol or whatever. So I'm not going to invest in companies that make alcohol or whatever that might be, right? That's a little different, I think.
It is. Yeah, I get that part for sure. And many people that get into that they'll say, hey, I don't care if my returns are lower. I just want to make sure the money I'm investing is not going to go support causes that I am not for. So I
totally great.
Yeah. So that's, but you have to go into that eyes wide open too. Because most of those portfolios definitely underperform a standard, growth portfolio that's buying the broader markets.
And if you're in a position to handle that risk or weather that low productivity, do it if that's what you need. Right.
If it makes you feel good, great. I will tell you, most of the folks we work with, feelings tend to be not in the discussion very often at all. It's more so how do we get the best results we can based off of the current environment we're in. And that is generally not saying, let's change what we're doing based off of who's in the White House. And I
think most of us feel that way, but we are weird times. So,
well, even in this scenario here, right? I mean, the election's here, in a few days,
4 or 5 days. Yeah.
Yeah. And, first of all, go vote. If you've
no matter what you feel, go vote. Yep.
If you spend any time overseas for the military, first of all, thank you for your service. Second of all, you've seen people get to vote for the first time in their country's history. It's very special. It's a privilege that we take for granted sometimes, for sure. So go vote. But at the same token, regardless who wins, there's going to be some short-term implication to that. I could see it going down no matter what, because we're not at the end, but we're in the middle of this really long bull run up market this year. Yeah. And so the market's probably a little overdue for a little downward correction anyways. And
it's being, depending on how you look at things, it's being propped up by any number of factors over the last couple of years anyway. I mean, serious influx of cash and printing. Then you've got all the inflation issues and you've got some adjustments. I mean, there's a whole lot of reasons to be nervous for sure. I don't know that the candidate is specifically the one to focus it all on, to our initial point of this conversation. There's a lot of other external factors that they may or may not be able to affect.
Right.
So,
right. Yeah. And I think, at the end of the day, if we hear people frequently say, I think I'm just going to wait and see what happens with the election, and then I'll make a decision. And realistically, I don't think they truly have that much conviction about the weight that politics has on their investments. What I really think, Mark, is that they are grasping at anything they can to procrastinate on making a decision that is probably in their best interest, but they're scared they're going to make a wrong decision.
Yes. That's it right there.
And because I'm scared to make a wrong decision, I will say something like, ooh, what's happening out there? Oh, the market's going crazy, or gas is high, or inflation's high, or the war in Europe just started, or pick your excuse from the last 2 years. And forgive me for coming across rude. They're excuses. I'm making excuses at my inability to make a decision. And for this season, and when you've been doing this as long as I've been doing it, you see it kicks in every election year. Normally in the spring after tax season, you'll start to hear people we connect with say, I'm just going to wait and see what happens.
Well, there's always something in front of us. And you could take it to any factor of life, not just investing. Now we're having that conversation here. But procrastination, humans are real freaking good at this. Oh, yeah. We're all very good at it, no matter. And there's probably one sector of your life, even if you're like an awesome, self-disciplined person who rarely procrastinates, kudos to you. But I bet you that there's one thing that you probably procrastinate about. Everybody does, right?
Yep.
And certainly when it comes to our money, that winds up being one that really gives us let me play it a little close to the chest,
Yeah. We all procrastinate. I got a Diet Mountain Dew right here, man. This is like a bad habit I've had for about 90 days. And I just told myself yesterday, I'm going to have my last one on Friday. Well, why wouldn't I do it today?
Yeah, right.
I'm with you. For different things.
I'm with you. Yeah. Now, see, I'm gonna give you a hard time because that's like the worst tasting diet drink there is.
it's just what the staff puts in the fridge. I don't even know why.
Yeah, it's so. But the reason I say that is I am a lifelong addicted hardcore junkie to regular Mountain Dew. And so the diet is just sacrilege. But to that point, I finally had to at the beginning of 2024 go, I have got to cut down my sugar. I've gained too much weight, blah, blah, blah. And I lost 25 pounds when I cut sugar out for about 4 months. I got to about the 5th month. Life started getting a little kooky. And we've gone through the year and I start slipping back in a little bit, start having a little bit here and there. To your point, it's easy to fall off the wagon with things or get scared of things and go back to old crutches, right? So just do it.
Again, in this scenario, if you really stop and ask the question, well, what are you going to do if this party gets elected or that party gets elected? It's not like they already know, hey, I'm going to wait and see what happens. And then if Trump gets elected, I'm going to do X, Y, Z. And then if Harris gets elected, I'm going to do A, B, C. I mean, there's no actual intellectual thought dedicated to it. It's more so, I need an excuse to procrastinate. And this gives me one. Well, guess what happens right after the election? It's the holidays. And then, well, I want to, after that, it's the first of the year. Well, the weather's kind of bad. I mean, there's always
inauguration. Yeah.
Well, let me see how the new president does or whatever, There's always reasons.
Now it's Valentine's Day.
Yeah. I haven't heard that one before. So.
I'm really grasping for straws at that one. But,
exactly.
But it is the point. Humans have the ability to do so, and rightfully so. Sometimes when you are generally concerned about your financial stability or your financial future. And to me, we'll wrap it up with this guy. Because it comes back to not having a strategy or a plan that allows you to feel some confidence. I mean, confidence is really the key when you're talking about human behavior, no matter where you put it. If you've got some confidence in the structure that you've put in place, you're going to kind of roll with it. Because look, if you're walking into retirement, it doesn't matter who wins this election. I mean, yes, obviously it matters about a lot of things. There's a lot of stuff out there. But from a financial standpoint, you may be retired for the next 5 presidents, 20 years, right? 4 years a pop, right? There's going to be a lot of changes that come through those different administrations over the next 20 years. So do you have a strategy to retire in kind of whatever environment's thrown your way? That's the point.
Yeah, and I think, I would say my closing thoughts would be much in line with that, which is you should have a plan. Your financial plan and retirement plan should absolutely be uninfluenced, unhindered by whoever's in office. It should be not a factor whatsoever. If it is, you need a new plan. I'll say it that bluntly.
Yeah.
The other thing I'll say is if you look at, let's say you're a brand new pilot, average hiring age is 30-ish. Let's call it 30 for math. You're going to talk to somebody who's 60. They're going to retire in the next 5 years. If you go talk to that senior 60-year-old captain and ask him or her, hey, what decisions did you make based off of who was president to get you where you're at financially now? Man, nothing. They're going to say nothing. I made no decisions on that whatsoever if they've been successful. Yeah. And, over a 30-year period, if you were in and out of the market based off of who got elected, believe me, you suffered and your portfolio suffered. And realistically speaking, over long periods of time like that, it is an absolute non-issue. I was talking with my friends or some of my clients in person here. They can't stop us, we're all living the American dream to just go and live in an abundance and grow a great portfolio and a great career and a great retirement. They can't stop us. So we got to do things smartly and intelligently. We're going to talk next time about taxes. That's definitely one they can hurt us on. But when it comes to the market and some of these great companies that we're working for and invested in, they can't stop us. We're going to figure out how to do great, and we need to partake in that and not get scared out of it.
I like it. I like it very much. All right. Well, if you got questions, need some help, check the show notes for descriptions for links on where to go to. You can stop by Scott's website if you'd like to do so. And that is retireairlines.com. That's retireairlines.com. If you need some help, again, reach out to Scott and his team and have a conversation and maybe get some confidence in your strategy. Or maybe you don't have a strategy at all, and that's where some of the confidence is coming from. So subscribe to the podcast, and that way you catch new episodes when they come out. Hit the thumbs up and ring the notification bell. And of course, we'll see you next time here on the Wealthy Pilots podcast with Scott Osborn. Thank you, my friend, for hanging out. And I guess we'll talk shortly after the election about taxation, and we'll see where we're at. So have a good one.
Yes, we will.
We'll see you next time here on the Wealthy Pilots podcast with Scott Osborn.
Is your 401k working as hard as you are? Let's find out at thepilotsplanner.com to get started with your free full thrust 401k toolkit. Come see what a good financial co-pilot can do to help make sure your retirement is ready to take flight. Visit us at thepilotsplanner.com. That's thepilotsplanner.com.
Information is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute tax, investment, or legal advice. Always consult with a qualified investment, legal, or tax professional before taking any action.